Hey everyone, Mike here, and today I wanted to introduce you to Jill. No one on the channel has really seen or met her, but I talked about her a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to get her first impressions on picking and reselling and all that kind of stuff, but also give you a chance to meet her and ask questions. So if there's anything you want to know, just ask down below. Obviously, it needs to be appropriate, not rude. But yeah, Jill and I met almost exactly 3 years ago now, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And we met on a dating app randomly, and we've been dating for almost 3 years. We've lived together for 2 years, maybe.
Around. Yeah.
We have 2 cats, and that's us.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, so you mentioned before your first impressions. So what did you think of going to your first estate sale?
I'd never been to an estate sale before. I've only been to savers and garage sales. I've never been inside of like people's homes with all their stuff out. So that was pretty cool. What I was not expecting at the estate sale was Mike buying an entire room of books.
I wasn't expecting that either.
Yeah. That later overcame our house.
True.
For the most part.
And I mistakenly undersold a book today by $400 from that lot. So she didn't like that either.
Well, you didn't like that either.
That's true. Okay, yeah, I mean, that was also my first estate sale. And
It's pretty cool that we got to experience it together.
Yeah, we went on the last day. The guy was a hoarder. So some of the house was pretty gross. We didn't actually go in the basement the day we went, but I went in the basement when I picked up the books a few days later. There's a spider up there. Sorry about that. There was a spider, and I hate bugs, so it was distracting me. And I forgot what I was saying. But
we were talking about the estate sale.
Yes. The guy was a hoarder. The house was pretty gross. They had to throw out like 4 dumpsters full of stuff, like semi-truck dumpsters.
Made a good connection there.
Yeah, the guy who was running the estate sale became a good connection. We go every week to his estate sales now. Well, him and his husband run like a local setup. Any other thoughts or things you want to mention about that?
I don't think so.
Okay. And then, like, what have you thought about going thrifting so far? Because we've gone thrifting together a lot more than estate sales, probably.
Yeah. I enjoy it a lot. I'm still getting the hang of looking stuff up while we're there, and making sure that it's a good find.
Yeah.
We're still trying to get a rhythm after we get back as well. But we're getting the boxes together. We're getting labels ready.
Yeah, because when we come home, it just becomes a cluttered mess. So you can't see in this video, but our living room is filled with a bunch of stuff from the thrift store when I went by myself.
So I'm trying to get that under control so that way when he goes back to school and I work full time, our house isn't always a mess. We can still live in it.
Well, and I also rearranged the workroom today, but you haven't seen it. But my goal was to make room for more stuff because our living space is pretty small. This is our kitchen, and every room in the house is kind of around the same size as this room, with the exception of the living room, which is a little bit bigger, and our bathroom, which is ultra tiny. So what are your thoughts on, you say you're still learning and researching items. What are your thoughts on the amount of valuable stuff that's at the thrift store, estate sales, or how much you have to know to even find things?
It's actually really interesting. I've never even thought about reselling before you mentioned it, ever. And the amount of work and small details that go into it, from taking photos to product descriptions, is a lot more involved than I would have thought. Oh, and also, of course, the finance stuff.
Yeah. To you, like, what is the most surprising part about that you didn't think was involved?
Probably the like accounting behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. I think,
And the labels, like how to keep track of everything, the counts per unit. I didn't even think that that would be, I didn't even know what that was before I started
the
seeing
cost
it.
per unit, you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
I say count?
Yeah. But I mean, well, the thing is, it's hard to find inventory if you have smaller stuff. Like if you have
Mhm.
large things, you can just look in a room and find it. But if you start accumulating small stuff, it becomes increasingly difficult to find it, which is why I try to make the box system. There's other systems you can use. We have a point of sale system now. We're using PHP, which is what I used to use, but I lost access to my account because that computer is gone. And a lot of resellers don't treat reselling like fully like a business. They're not very organized. Maybe it's changed a little over the years, but back when I first started reselling, the biggest issue everyone had was how do you keep track and pay taxes? How do you keep inventory and count how much it's worth? Some people do simple tally system or money in, money out type of ledger. I don't like that. Yeah, I mean, Excel files, but those are slow. I don't like that stuff because it doesn't do a particularly good job at telling you how much you made on specific lots or specific outings. Rather, it just says, well, on a whole, you made this much, but it's not really a very good idea of how you're doing with certain items. If you have a point of sale system and you're organized, you can actually go back and say, okay, this type of stock is really selling well. This stuff is all sitting here. We should reconsider what type of stuff we're buying. Maybe you can get a feel for that, but if you're doing high volume,
Or in the places where you're purchasing.
yeah, the sourcing options that you're going to and picking stuff up. And I think that's nice to be able to keep track of that stuff, but it isn't for everyone. Not everyone's as meticulous as I am, I guess. I really like having barcodes and a point of sale system. And it was like, I didn't care how much it costed. I really wanted a point of sale system because I just get overwhelmed in the details and stuff. If not, and I'm constantly worried about like losing inventory.
Makes sense. I think one thing that I also didn't think about was the losses if something was broken or damaged when or wasn't worth anything. I didn't think about those type of losses either.
Yeah. But I think another thing that new resellers forget is that all business has losses and there's always going to be situations that suck. So like the situation today where I undersold something, if I was a new reseller and I barely had any money, that could be devastating. And there's other situations that can be devastating. People will try to scam you. Mail will get lost. Expensive mail will get lost or damaged. People will steal other people's packages. That's a lot more popular now than it used to ever be. I mean, stolen packages wasn't as big of an issue as it is now. And counterfeit goods, all sorts of things can happen. And those are just part of running any business, really. There's always people looking to exploit others for their own gain. And I remember when I first started selling a long time ago, like 2008, I paid $2,000, which was almost all I had to make my own website. I paid a web developer to do that. And then he developed a backend that I couldn't even use to list items. It would take over 10 minutes to list one item.
Oh my god.
That's how slow and tedious it was.
That's
And he lived in a different state, so I couldn't even like sue him for the money. I didn't have money to do it anyways, but I couldn't sue him. I couldn't get my money back. I was stuck with a website that I just wasted all my money on. It was a really dumb mistake. I was young. 8 years ago, I was what, 20, or not, that's not 8 years ago, that's 13 years ago. So I was just like around 18.
oh wow.
And yeah, it was a really costly mistake. It put me way behind, and I was selling on the side, and I just had to stop selling for a couple months and save money and everything. What? We're not allowed to talk? I want to ask you about anything that you thought was kind of cool that we found recently or that you've seen. And because I feel like stuff that interests me doesn't necessarily interest you. I'm amused by weird stuff like rocks and I don't know, vintage collectibles. I feel like there's different things that will catch your eye than me.
Yeah. I think a few of the things that stick out in my mind are that really pretty vase that you found with the flowers on it.
Oh, okay.
The like mural thing of the Last Supper, like you mentioned.
Yeah, the Last Supper wall piece.
Yes. And I just find it interesting that some of the books can go up to $500 to sell. Like, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, the books thing is kind of crazy to me too, because it's weird how arbitrary the value of books is.
Mm-hmm. And manuals.
Yeah, video game manuals are a little different. Well, video game manuals are a little different because a manual is part of a bigger thing. Like, in order for a game to be considered complete, it needs a manual.
Right.
So it makes sense that you would replace those. But as far as books, they themselves are the collectible. You know, maybe there's a dust cover you need or something. But and they're so mass produced. I mean, there's so many books, millions and millions of different books. It's like, what dictates what's value? It's such a weird market, and it's huge. I couldn't imagine being like a vintage rare bookseller or something. You know, like the amount of knowledge you would need to figure out if a book was worth money would be so much and so immense that I can't even imagine the amount of time you would need to spend to learn that.
I think one other thing that surprised us was how fast those records sold that we found.
Oh yeah, so those will be in the update sales video, and I'll explain some information around. But we found with the book lot, one of the boxes had records in it, and most of them didn't seem particularly valuable. But there was a bunch from Ohio University, one from Ohio State. Yeah, they're all marching band albums, and general marching band albums didn't seem to suffer a lot, but it turns out Ohio University has this huge community of collectors trying to find all of the albums because they all have individual art on them and they want to hang them on their wall or whatever. So I posted the 5 or 6 albums we had, and within like 10 minutes I had 3 messages and then days worth of correspondence with people over if I had more stuff and how long I've been looking for them, and it was just a whole thing. And they're not particularly valuable. I mean, I sold most of them for 15 to 25, but it is interesting that there's such like a strong collection, like collectors base behind them.
And it's good to know for future reference too, if we do run into any more.
Yeah, I would have never picked up random marching band albums from universities before now, but apparently they're so rare that a lot of these people have been looking for years. So I'm not sure we will run into them, but if we do, or if anyone that's watching does, if a university is fairly popular, apparently there's a lot of people looking for their music records. It was not something I had ever dealt with before, and I haven't really sold records except for those. One of our biggest issues is limited space. So what are your thoughts on the space in our house, how we're going to make reselling work, how we can even expand our business past a certain point, because obviously it will just start to overtake the house.
I think right now what our plan is kind of the inventory is taking up probably 1 room and a closet. The unlisted inventory is taking up like 1/4 of a room, maybe half.
Yeah, I would say half. 1/4 is pretty kind.
Those are all the stuff that we need to photograph and, you know, get all listed before we move it into storage, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the way we have it. Is there's like a box system we break up lots into boxes, then we photograph that entire box, then we list that entire box, and we put the box away. It's the easiest way to do it, because if you don't do it like that, then you end up pulling inventory out, putting it away, pulling more inventory out, putting it away, and then you just end up with this giant mixed stack of different inventory. There is a reason people don't always do it the way we're doing it. It's because some people like to sell their most valuable stuff first. So that is, if they keep bringing in valuable stuff that's not worth a lot, they won't get to until later when they're slow or something. I don't necessarily mind that approach, because there's a lot of valuable stuff we have, especially video game collectibles and booklets and stuff, but that just creates issues with clutter. I really like the idea of just trying to methodically get stuff out of the way. And besides that, do you have anything you want to share, or questions you want to ask me, or?
Well, you also mentioned like how you might grow. I mean, we've kind of talked about that a little bit. If we do get to a better point in, reselling and stuff like that, we'll try and look at maybe renting space out, or asking family members or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to rent space from family in general, just because it can create issues. Eventually, if we keep reselling, we will have to do something. We will need a space. It's just not feasible. We would just end up filling up our whole house. It's hard to explain how limited space is here, because you don't have a general idea of the layout, but it's like no matter what we do, it's still limited space. We work so hard to condense stuff and organize it, and it's just it seems like we never have enough space.
That's okay. I mean, it's really what we need right now.
Yeah, well, I should mention that the place we live is just a really good deal. We live in a good neighborhood. It's cheap. The rent does not change. It's like a locked-in rate. The board of the area we live in helped me when I was really sick. It's just filled with good people. So that's the reason, like, if you're hearing us talk about not having a lot of space for reselling, but then you're thinking like, well, why don't you just move? It's just
basically so we can try and pay off our, like, I have a lot of student loans, and save money for the future.
Yeah, just paying down debt in general. But not only that, it would actually probably be cheaper to rent space and live here than to get a bigger place to resell in, actually. So, I mean, our rent is locked in at like just under $500 a month for 900 or 1,000 square feet or whatever, which in our area, some people are paying over $1,000 a month for little apartments. And rent has gone up a crazy amount in the last year and a half. So, along with house prices and everything else. Is there anything you want to ask me? That's nothing you're curious about, or old YouTube stuff, old reselling stuff?
I guess with school coming up, how many like videos are you planning on doing, and how do you think you're gonna work like keep up with everything?
I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
Well, the problem with school is school's very unpredictable. You never know how difficult a class is going to be.
Or the workload,
I go to Case Western, and I guess every college has hit or miss classes, but Case Western's workload is known for being pretty high. There's like this weird culture on campus of people bragging about outworking each other and not sleeping, and it's just a very competitive, high tier. You're trying to be some type of elite student, I don't know. I don't like it. That's not really my scene. The quality of the education is great, but I'm not a big fan of like the atmosphere in particular. And that can cause some professors to be pretty harsh as far as the amount of work they give, how they grade you, their expectations. So for me, I've put a lot of effort into the last few semesters. I'm pretty tired, so I just hope my classes are not too terrible this semester. But I'm nearing the end, so ideally it shouldn't be too bad. As far as managing the workload, I think I can do it as long as I stay focused, which has been my issue in the past, is I can't focus on stuff and then I make promises and don't come through on them, which is a big problem I had with the channel. I would always like, oh, I'm gonna start reselling again. Oh, I'm gonna do this every week. And that's why I haven't made any promises about videos. But ideally, I would like to post 3 videos a week, which sounds like a lot, but I think it's manageable since I have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. I would like to post like on Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, I think, is the ideal setup.
Mm-hmm.
What that schedule looks like what the content is like, I have no clue. Mm-hmm. Some people like haul videos. Some people like videos about what we've sold. Some people might like you and I interacting together and talking like this, or going over our finds for the week together.
Or even like walking them through our process with a box or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, some people want to learn about the point of sale system, and I guess what we should do is ask, what would you like to see? If you want to see specific things, then you can post in the comments, and we'll add it to our list of things we're going to work on video-wise or content-wise.
I might not be in a lot of videos, just every once in a while, but
yeah,
we'll figure that out too.
It really depends on if our schedules align decently. At least we have weekends off together. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of variables with school. Because the other thing is you have to consider like testing and finals, and certain weeks are going to be much harder than others. But then we go into the holidays. So we'll just see how it goes. I want to try to make videos consistently. I always try to post 1 or 2 per week, but ideally, I like the idea of posting 3. Right now, we're trying to get the channel remonetized. It was demonetized because of inactivity about a year ago, and I didn't even know. They didn't even like contact me. I just logged in and noticed all the money signs were gone. Like, you know, they put a little money sign saying your video is monetized, and they were gone. So I was like, well, that's weird. And then I went and looked at it, and it's like, we deactivated your monetization because you haven't been here in a year or something. I was like, well, I guess that's true. I don't really blame you. Although I would think they would want to keep making money off my videos that were posted. So I guess I don't fully understand the thought process behind that. Maybe it's like you have some type of contract with them and it expires or something.
Or there weren't enough page views or something, or, you know, impressions or whatever. Yeah, I mean, maybe there comes a point where your video or your channel is not actually worth it. Yeah, the hosting it and everything is costing or something. But that was it. I wanted to kind of, you know, pick Jill's brain about reselling and ask her a couple of questions about going to estate sales and thrift stores. We haven't been to flea market together at all, which is surprising. Actually, in 3 years we haven't. Well, COVID, but. Well, we have a few, I think, around.
Yeah, I know. There's a really big one in Hartville. Yeah, that's kind of far.
Cleveland flea is this weekend.
Oh, we can't go this
weekend. September, I think, or October.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think of where else I used to source a lot. I mean, we have to hit different thrift stores because there's not many around us, which is just unfortunate. It's very limited in this part of Cleveland for some reason. There's a lot more on the east side. We live on the west side. And
we can make day trips or something.
Yard sales, we have not been able to hit.
We have not, no.
So that's something.
We've been really busy on the weekends, though.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll calm down once school picks back up, but we'll see.
And then I should mention that it's not even like I can source around school because school's like in the middle of the city. There's nowhere to go. I mean, maybe there's thrift stores over there somewhere, but there's really nowhere to stop and source.
I can't really think of any. I know of one that's closer to my work than Case. But yeah, I mean, we can do some more research on it and see. Yeah, that would be a good use of your time between classes. I know that one day you've got a big gap. So
yeah, I have a really late class and it's like this 3-hour gap before I start it, so I have to find something to do besides schoolwork. But that was it. We're gonna wrap up here, and we will see you guys soon. Oh, you're doing a peace sign.
There's such a mess. So we put the tapestry down.
No, that's so the cold air comes in, so I don't die.
Oh, okay.
I'm already like dripping sweat. Hi, Rue. You want to get up there? Come on, jump up. Come on. No, it's noise. Jump.
No, Papa.
You guys can meet our cat. Come on.
If he wants to jump up.
You
Come
were
here.
here earlier. Come on. You want Mama to pick you up?
Come here. Come here, Papa. Come here. Fine.
This is Rue. He's our massive male cat that's shaking the entire camera. And he's a brat.
He loves all the attention.
Yeah, complete center of attention at all moments. Unless he's sleeping, then don't bother him. Perfect. Now watch, I'm gonna go to introduce you and he's gonna walk in front. I already know it. See? This is the problem. I was hoping he would away. He wants the window open. He's backing up.
Yeah. No. Go back there.
We're not gonna be able to keep him up here. There's gonna be funny outtakes at the end.
Right.
All this. This is my life, overshadowed by a cat's ass. Yeah, he's chilling right now. Okay, you ready?
Ready, Freddy.
All right.